Call this meeting of the North Liberty Planning Commission to order Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. Roll call.
Ahern.
Aye. Here.
Bapke.
Here.
Heisler.
Here.
Keo.
Here.
Staber. Vincent.
Here.
Willer.
Here.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
I'll second.
Great. Moved by Josie, second by, who seconded? Jason seconded?
Yep.
Okay, great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Agenda item number 3, a public hearing for a zoning map amendment. Staff presentation.
I can come down here if that's okay.
Look at you being all fancy.
Well, I kind of missed the Zoom, as I mentioned, being able to kind of flash those things up on the screen. And so
Sure.
I figured I'd kind of try go back to it and do a PowerPoint. Certainly we are talking about technology as we talk about the new City Hall, being able to kind of balance and do these things. So as you mentioned, this is a request for several rezonings. Current zoning right now is interim development. The north half of the that you see up there was recently annexed into the city of North Liberty. It was previously in the county. So here is configuration and proposed zonings. We've got RS4 along the north end of the property, shown in kind of pink, and that's a single unit or single family. We call it single unit, but that's a low density residential zoning. RS6, also single unit, but designated in code as kind of a moderate single family zoning. RD10, which is the green, is a 2-unit or kind of what we call zero lot line. RM8, the yellow towards Kansas, is a multi-unit medium, and the RM12, which is the brown, also a multi-unit, but also a medium density multifamily zoning. And the C2A, which is highway commercial, is at the corner of Forever Green and Kansas. So the future land use map, the comprehensive plan future land use map calls for 3 different areas. At the southwest corner where they're requesting commercial zoning, it is commercial. The yellow towards the east is residential, and the portion along Kansas north of the commercial area is commercial with residential. And this is in your packet, but just kind of descriptions of the land use as they described in the comprehensive plan. Also commercial land use descriptions, really talks about the higher density being between 380 and Kansas, and this area kind of being the front door. Interestingly, I didn't really find a description for commercial with residential, and if I understand correctly, that was a work session. I think there might have been a joint work session with Planning Commission and City Council of some changes to the land use map, and I think that was one of those changes, but that really encourages a mixed use development with residential above commercial. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Relevant comprehensive plan, obviously maintain advantageous tax situations, support high density, medium density, and close proximity to commercial services. Concentrate higher density apartment style and proximity that offer a wide range of supported services, commercial and recreation facilities. Public input. We did have a good neighbor meeting on September 23rd. More people attended, but I would say from a citizen standpoint, approximately 5 people. It's just worth mentioning that this was the proposal at the time of the Good Neighbor meeting, a little bit different. They had multifamily on a portion of it along the north property line, as well as RS6 along the north property line. And around the Rarick homestead is the white next to Kansas. That was also RM12. And so the changes that I've discussed, it's been changed to RS4 when the application formally came in. And we use these Good Neighbor meetings to provide feedback to the applicant so they can change it if they choose to. So along the north property line currently RS4, and around the Rarick homestead is the RM8. I think Bev's in the audience. Bev Seelman and her husband own the property directly to the north. So Bev did provide some concerns. I provided our correspondence in the packet. So you should see those. I tried to provide some responses that I provided to Bev, but I'm summarizing them here. Density concerns, buffering along the north property line, perhaps the installation of berms, trees, and a fence, location of proposed roads, stormwater outfall as it relates to the north property, tile line exploration, and street light locations. And we'll talk about a few of those things. And again, it's just those summarize some of the changes when the application came in. I think it's worth mentioning that the applicant, who's Bowman Property, actually owns or did own all of the area in blue. So the area you're seeing is over 100 acres. They actually own that property west, but did recently sell that 30 plus acres to Steinler Orthopedic. So, it's only worth mentioning that is, at least with respect to the east half, we did encourage kind of a comprehensive planning approach to this. They didn't include the commercial portion at the bottom, and we said, no, we ask that you include all of this to kind of look at this holistically of how we want this area to develop. And really that corner there, I'd say at the northeast corner of 380 and for Evergreen. And I think he's waiting for a bigger user on that, so it's just not quite clear on what that's going to be. Based on the concept, approximately 56 single family, 73 two-unit residents, 299 multi-unit residences, plus additional multifamily zoning that you would see kind of at the south towards Forever Green. I included the unit mix of kind of what North Liberty currently is. Just as an FYI, I know I've been asked for it in the past, so I feel like I should include it in the packet. But the cost of housing remains a concern. We're seeing new housing that's being built, kind of being sold in that $450,000 upwards of $500,000. And I think that's reflective of what you're seeing here is I talked to this applicant who indicated that kind of that first home buyer market is looking to buy houses and they're just not able to afford that price point. I also talked to Adam Hahn with the Watts, and they also said that was a similar buyer that they're seeing. They're actually looking to change a portion that was single family to the two-unit residence, and that'll be coming in a bit. But certainly the cost of housing continues to be a concern. Just analysis on the request. Proposed streets here. You do see these yellow lines going east-west and north-south. The north-south line would be future Alexander Way. A portion of Alexander Way is constructed north of Penn Street, and a portion of it is constructed with the preserve next to Centennial Park. And so this is just another section of it. One day we hope that that road will extend north-south, but it is planned to be a future collector road. And when you talk about the pressure that sometimes traffic is put on Jones Boulevard, Kansas, and other roads like Forever Green, it's important to plan for and build these other north-south, east-west roads, take pressure off of those streets. The east-west street that you see is Remley Street. That will go from Jones Boulevard over to Kansas, and a portion of it will be constructed with the Michelson subdivision. So eventually we anticipate that that'll connect. So analysis with the comprehensive plan. I always ask myself two things. Is it consistent with the comprehensive plan, and is it compatible with the area? Obviously, the residential development would be compatible with the residential land use. So with the commercial. The commercial with residential gets a little questionable. And again, this is a land use that would support a mixed use development. Personally, I question market conditions along mid-block areas, right? I think of the mixed use development there at the north end of Kansas, which is fully occupied with residential, but has completely vacant on the bottom. So I think we're going to look a little bit more into that with the new comprehensive plan update. But the one thing I think you need to take into consideration is compatibility with surrounding areas. You do have the Rarick Homestead and the Seelman Homestead to the north, and I think putting a mixed-use development, commercial, residential, next to Homestead isn't really compatible. And so you kind of, at least me personally, I would back off and say more of a residential development would be appropriate. This is the adopted parks plan. It was 2016. We kind of drew rings about where our park needs would be. And so we analyzed this with, as development moves inward, we would identify a park need a little bit further east of this property. And so we would be identifying and looking to secure a larger park space that would benefit residents from the east and west could use. They did show in their concept a lot of trails. This is just a concept. We'll be looking at this a little bit more closely. I did talk to the parks director. He did share some concerns because anything that's is it over 6 feet, Kevin, or 8 feet and above, we do maintain, and so that's an extra burden on them. So we may ask when we get into construction plan approval that if they want wider sidewalks, maybe they be 6-foot sidewalks, so they so that it wouldn't have to be maintained by parks. But we would ask, and they are providing a trail along those collector streets that I mentioned, Remley and Alexander. So those will have the wide multi-use paths on them. I would mention, let's see, other considerations, landscape buffering. Concept plan does depict 10-foot landscape buffer along the north property line adjacent to the Seelman homestead. Normally you wouldn't see, or we wouldn't ask for buffering when you have single family adjacent to another single family or a homestead. It is much lower density. I know the Seelmans did ask for it, so they did provide it. The only concern that is we do have a sanitary sewer force main coming across there, as well as electrical that's going to be going in their future. So we'll have to be careful about where plantings go so they don't interfere with that. Also recommending a 20-foot wide landscape buffer along Kansas and Forever Green, and that's in the subdivision ordinance. So if they subdivide, they're going to be subject to it anyway, but I just didn't want something to come in as a site plan and that would be missed, just so we have a uniform landscape buffer along that west property line. I would say from a land use standpoint, typically what we would like to see is a little bit more higher density, and I wouldn't consider anything from a residential standpoint to be high density here. It's classified in the code as medium density, but higher density closer to those arterial roads such as Kansas and Forever Green. That's why you see the larger apartment buildings towards the south. And then you get lower density as you move towards the interior. And so that's why you see that transition from multifamily to two-family to the single family. And then I think Bichelson is also single family as well. Okay, so it's staff's opinion that the zoning would achieve consistency with the comprehensive plan, except for the land use compatibility considerations adjacent to less dense development. And the proposed zonings would be compatible with surrounding properties. And staff recommends approval that the property generally achieve consistency with the submitted plan as it relates to the general pattern of land use development, landscape buffering, and there be that 20-foot landscape buffer, as I mentioned, along Kansas and West Forever Green Road. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm sure we'll have some questions for you.
Yep, trying to figure out which a good slide to land on here.
Okay, great.
Let's go with that one.
That's a good one. Is there an applicant presentation this evening? Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Mike Bales. I'm with Urban Acres Real Estate, and I'm here on behalf of the owners of the property. And Ryan did a very good job of detailing, pretty much everything. One of the things I can say is I've done a lot of development work in North Liberty in the past, but I actually haven't had the opportunity to really work much with Ryan until this point. And it was a great process in terms of a lot of dialogue. When we look at development properties, the biggest thing we're looking at is not only what we want, but what makes sense. What flows. As a developer and as a sales agent, once you have the property, you still have to sell it. So just jamming anything into a property doesn't make sense. The biggest thing is planning. And what I can say is throughout this process, it's been a very collaborative step by step. And we're happy with the results in terms of the mixed use and different price points. So really what I would offer is that if you have any questions, be glad to answer anything about the concept, how we came up with it, the different properties, and the different styles.
Great, thank you. I'm sure we'll have some
Yep.
when it's time for us to ask our questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Ryan, I saw that there was some public comment included in the packet. Before I open it up here, was there any added?
Nothing additional. The only correspondence is the one I referenced with Mrs. Seelman.
Okay, great. So now I'll offer it up for public comment for anyone in the audience who would like to speak. Okay, seeing none. Questions and comments from the commission?
Well, I think personally, I'd share, I'd agree and share with Ryan what he said about the zoning in the red, with having commercial underneath multi-use or multi-residential. That seems to be failing on Kansas farther up, and I would be concerned as a citizen about that.
I just wanted to note that in the packet, I read the good neighbor feedback, but then I also appreciated, Ryan, you responded to several items for explanations, but I thought that was some good comments. And then, is it my understanding correct that then the owner's the one that responded with the, for example, the tree line or berm buffer in response to the good neighbor comments, right? So I thought that was collaborative.
Yeah, and appreciate Bev's comments, and when I received them, I forwarded them immediately and said, can we talk about this? And is there areas where we can compromise? Can we change zoning to something less dense? And they were willing to work with us, which we really appreciate. And I know there's a lot more to it than just zoning, right? There are engineering details that were also referenced, and so we'll continue to reach out as those engineering details get provided to us. And I know some are important to Bev. About the stormwater outfall and things like that. We just don't have those details, right? And when we do get the engineering, we'll be forwarding them, and location of drain tiles and things like that. We will require exploratory digging along the perimeter to find those. So.
Are there other RM12? That's when you go more north on Kansas. Those are the townhome.
Correct.
Those townhomes, right?
Yep. Yeah, right at the preserve.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. I mean, when I first saw this, it's a lot.
Mhm.
And my biggest question is the market. I mean, what you said, the market can sustain it right now. I'm curious, is this sustainable for North Liberty for longer than right now?
So realistically, this is the wave of the future. We have a lot of every age bracket of buyer has, there's different stages in life, and oftentimes you think of condos, you think of younger people that are just, first in the home buying process, or you think of, people who are downsizing and want to get rid of the yards and stuff. We're seeing it from everybody. We know prices being what they are. There's a lot of benefit, not only economically but socially, in having some of these connected units, and that we didn't want to just create zoning and different things, as Ryan had pointed out with the trails and stuff. We were really looking at establishing a community, and the problem sometimes when you come in with basically 160 acres. It looks like a lot, but if you break it down, the different zoning reflect larger single family, smaller single family, duplex, zero lot, 3 different styles of townhomes, condominiums, ranch style. We actually broke it down so it's not one use. This is multiple different price points. And while this is a concept, and so we did use some floor plans that we've used in the past, when this gets built out and it's brought back forward with the full site plan, there'll be slight changes. And when I say that, I mean, not all the units are going to be exactly the same, right? There's going to be some variation. There's going to be different colors. There's going to be slightly different sizes. And that's to promote the diversity and the housing stock that diversifies the pricing, which is what I alluded to, which is the fact that, you know, you can come up here and say, I want 1,000 units on here. How viable is that? We have to look at it. And one of my charges is when I'm brought forward to help in a development is to say, how can we make this work? And the way you make it work is diversification.
And so, by your assessment, North Liberty will be able to sustain this type of growth as long, I mean, Tiffin is also growing that much. Like, this area can support that, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
I just want to make
There's-
sure we
There's,
can,
I mean, like it or not, there's a couple of areas in the state that are really seeing growth, and the corridor is one of them. Des Moines Metro is another. There's a couple small areas, and unfortunately, sometimes to the detriment of other communities. I'm one of them, right? I came from Quad Cities and Davenport, and to the detriment of those other communities. I really do see us, and as we analyze our comprehensive plan and see how we grow over the next 20 years, we need to be prepared for sustained growth. I really do.
okay, that's good to hear, because the one thing I was worried about is we grow, but there's a boom, and then we're
Yeah.
left with homes we can't fill, but that's not in the foreseeable.
The bigger issue would be, quite honestly, I mean, if your entry level price point on a single family home is 430,000, you know, that's not sustainable. And I don't have an answer to that, but I can sure work on some housing products that are less than that, and that's the thing. You know, there's huge job opportunities in this area, but not always wage growth. And you know, just because prices don't go up, you know, just because prices go up doesn't mean everybody else is making enough money to afford it. And the thing is, when you look at this particular subdivision, again, there's not one thing. It's not just condos. It's not just townhomes. It's not just duplex. It's everything. And that's what will make it successful.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, we encourage them to come through with comprehensive plan to the development of this area. So it's not all going to get developed at once. It's going to be phased. Who knows? There may be changes, and markets may change, and they may come back to you for those changes. But you know, I kind of pushed him to kind of come in of like, let's kind of show everybody what the plan is for the property, and I mean, this is obviously several years of development.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and understanding right now, inventory is low, but demand is high. So I can appreciate
very,
that.
Very true. And, you know, and those flip back and forth at various times. But Ryan is right. This isn't all coming in while the zoning and the concept's coming to you at once. The development is not going to be all at once. It's going to be in sections depending on market demand.
I'll tell you one thing. A couple of months ago, we had the Johnson County Livable Community for Successful Aging present to the commission, all about aging in place and properties that are both affordable for seniors but accessible. And I like seeing the diversity in the style of home, in the hope that some of them will be more accessible for successful aging. Is that anything from your perspective that providing the inventory you guys look at in your scope, or is this too early in the planning for that?
Well, actually, the yellow with the, and I'm starting
RM8.
to, the RM8, I can't read it on there. Those are actually conceived as ranch duplex condos
The ones right along is that Kansas?
Yeah.
along Kansas. And so, again, a consideration was the Rarick Farmstead there. You know, we're mindful of, I work in all kinds of different housing stocks, so nothing really bothers me, but we're mindful that people, they've lived there for a long time. This is going to be a big change. We want to, soften that as much as possible. So what makes sense next to that? And that's why we specifically targeted those ranch duplex condos. And with the hopes that that's a market that we can go after.
Nice. Thank you.
Mike and Ryan, you guys probably maybe don't know off the top of your head, but what year are we in construction at the sanctuary to the north of you guys? Is 4 years in?
A preserve?
Preserve, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be 2.5, 3.
Is that all it is?
It was.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
Since time is
two,
totally
yeah,
skewed.
2.5, 3 years of construction would be all.
Yeah, and their absorption rate's got to be. I mean, they don't have units sitting for.
Oh, no.
But yeah,
No, no.
and that's yeah, that you know, I think that's kind of the idea there is that if you imagine that, you know, the way that's progressed, you know, and quite frankly, those are that's the stock that we desperately need. And it, you know, the developer is going to bear the brunt of anything that gets built and doesn't get sold. And those things, you know, the market ebbs and flows, and that's, you know, that's just a natural course of events. But yeah, I think everybody's concerns are founded. But at the same time, I think you know, it's just really kind of what the doctor orders at this point, and hopefully things can progress quick enough to meet the demand, you know, that's out there now. So
Diversified housing stock, you know, different price points, different options, you know, that's the key to any successful development.
I know we aren't here yet because this is just zoning, but you talked about wanting to create community. So when it does come time to see site plans, I know one of the things that was mentioned is there's no park space in this area, and you would look for one east of this. But with as many units that would be going in here, that would be something that I would be looking for community building. Since these are the, you know, the RM12 is what the price point that, like, my family would be in. And that's something that would be important to me.
Yeah, and so that's why, you know, obviously with any development, you need water detention, retention. You know, one of the things you can see with the red dash line is we were trying to make that area also an amenity to the community, and specifically the way we had the RM12 condo / apartments oriented, you know, we were trying to take advantage of that, and, you know, we would optimize the green space in that area. That was the whole goal there.
Great. Thank you.
You wanna,
Go ahead.
sorry, backtrack a little bit. The tile exploration, drain tile exploration, that cost is 100% borne by the developer, correct?
Correct. And we do actually have a tile line map for when we did the force main out there, so that'll provide a little bit of information. But yeah, we do.
That's part of any standard developer's
That
agreement.
was my assumption. I just want to make sure that I understood, because I know there's you know, that's a low, you know, there's going to be a lot of.
I haven't written an agreement that does
I'm
not
sure,
contain that. Yeah.
I assumed you did. I just wondered if, you know, the city had to incur any costs in that. So just want to make sure.
Okay, any other discussion from the commission? Any questions? Okay, so seeing none, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. May I have a motion for our recommendation to the city council?
Would just remind you that we had those 2 conditions that staff recommended. So just remind you before you make the motions, we don't have to redo motions.
I'll motion, I move that the planning commission accept the 2 listed findings and forward the zoning map amendment with the 2 listed conditions recommended by the city staff to the city council with a recommendation for approval.
I'll second. Sorry.
That's
Motion by Josie. Did we say second by Dave? Is that, I heard
Either
two at the
one.
same
Either
time.
one.
You
Great.
pick one. You pick. We both
Second
did.
by Dave.
Yeah.
we flipped.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call.
Keo,
Aye.
Mathke,
Aye.
Willer,
Aye.
Heisler,
Aye.
Vincent,
Aye.
Ahern.
Motion passes. Okay, agenda item number 4. Sorry, my agenda is way up here now. A request, thank you. Request of the City of North Liberty for an amendment to the North Liberty Urban Renewal Area. Staff presentation.
Would be me.
Oh, excellent.
So every few years, we have to look at our urban renewal plan. And right now, we're looking to add 2 new projects. By including them in the urban renewal plan, this provides the city the opportunity to borrow TIF money for those projects, if so desired. The 2 projects are the new City Hall project and the North Jones Boulevard project. The plan right now is to use GEO funds for the City Hall project and TIF funds for the North Jones Boulevard project. But we're adding them both to the plan just in case. So this is a piece of the approval process that's required for the city to amend their urban renewal area.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we are the applicant. North Liberty is the applicant. I doubt we got many on this, but is there any public comment on this that anyone provided or anyone in the audience who would like to share? Okay. Questions and comments from the commission?
I'm familiar with the City Hall project. I was less familiar with the North Jones project. I didn't know.
All right, so the parcel, there's 80 acres that would be west of North Jones Boulevard as extended. That was recently annexed
Okay.
into the city. We've been working with the developer about getting another kind of comprehensive planning on
Talking north
that.
of Penn.
Yes.
Yes. And Grant, would you share the portion, at least as it relates to why the city has to bid for North Jones?
Sure. So ordinarily we would say go on developer and develop your subdivision and then dedicate your streets to us and we'll see you on the other side. But there's a change in the state law concerning the public bidding process in 2018 such that we can't commit to purchasing something that was that's going to be built by a third party unless that goes out for unless that's subject to public bidding process and we use the lowest bidder. So whereas before we would have a developer build a street and then we would just accept that we would reimburse them for their cost of doing so. For developments that have a roadway that is not entirely in their subdivision, the city has to take control of that. So the construction of Jones Boulevard from Penn to 240th has to be, the city has to take the lead on that. When the land on either side of that roadway is developed, is it a collector street?
It is.
So it'll be each on either side. As those parcels develop, the developer will pay a third of the actual cost of constructing that roadway. So the city ends up paying a third, and when they develop, either side will pay a third. But that's required rather than just allowing the developer to build it because it prohibits a sweetheart deal for say we'll agree to buy whatever road you build, and then if it costs $10 million more than it should, we go, we shouldn't have made that agreement, right? So that's why this is sorted out. And why we're including it in this at this time when there's not a subdivision yet to call home with it. I hope that is somewhere close to clear. So.
And the reason you include it in the urban renewal plan this year is because you believe you may get funding for it and it's in the near future, or why this year and not next year or the year?
When we get ready, when we add it in so that it's done and ready to go, so we know how the funding sources are set up.
Okay.
So that would anticipate us using tax increment financing bonds to repay it rather than general obligation bonds, which are funded by tax levy.
And the city, for most of our projects, we actually will pay for them up front and then borrow afterwards. And so that's why getting identifying the financing afterwards is
And
crucial.
we do anticipate, assuming that construction moves forward, or with the actual development to the west, that the construction of that road would be next year.
If my property abuts 240th right across from that western development, Grant, would it be reasonable for me to abstain from the vote, or?
Your property abuts 240th. No, your property is not going to be.
Since I'm across the street? Okay.
Correct. That will not be affected by this. I mean, there might be some construction at some point. Pardon our progress, but nothing for you to abstain.
I'll
over.
see it out my kitchen window.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Gonna lose my favorite walking path. Just putting that on record.
No,
Nope.
A brand new one.
You get a brand new one.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And those overhead power lines will be relocated
Well,
underground.
that's where I walk. Like I just go north.
Be much nicer.
Excellent.
Oh, nice.
Where would the brand new one be?
The trail?
Yeah.
So it'll be on the west side of Jones Boulevard.
Concrete.
Yep.
The plan has always been for Jones Boulevard to go through. It's just been waiting for development.
West of that business right there at the corner.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so before I ask for a motion, what we're really looking at here is recommending approval of these two amendments to the urban renewal.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. May I have a motion for our recommendation to City Council?
How should such a motion be phrased?
I was going to say, was there a suggested,
That's-
motion?
Well, that's
in
what
the
I,
packet?
yeah.
If you were wanting to approve it,
I've
you,
softened you guys up.
You didn't put a recommendation in?
No, I was looking for it and it wasn't in there.
oh,
You're
that's
failing now.
diabolical. You give them one every other time and not for this one. So a motion to approve.
We're just making a motion to recommend approval.
Yeah, motion,
right?
motion to recommend
Amendment.
approval of the urban renewal area amendment plan to the city council. Something close to that. It's not gonna. Let's see what you got.
Okay. Well, then I recommend to approval of the urban renewal plan to city council. Close enough?
Motion by
Good
Jason.
enough for me to second. I'll second.
Great, second by Barry. So motion by Jason, second by Barry. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Willer,
Aye.
Ahern,
Aye.
Vincent,
Aye.
Keo.
Aye.
Bapke,
Aye.
Heisler.
Aye.
Motion passes. Great, thank you. Okay, may I have a motion for approval of the previous minutes?
Motion to approve the September 7th minutes from the Planning Commission.
I'll second. Ahern.
Great. Motion by Josie, second by Ahern. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Any old business? Is that a no? Sorry, I wasn't looking at you. Any
No.
new business?
Nothing to add. Of the, I shared some correspondence via email, but unless you have any questions about that, nothing beyond that.
Do you think, will we have a December meeting, you think?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Just so we can plan ahead. Fantastic. All right, if there isn't anything new, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right, motion by Jason, second by Dave. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Welcome, Brian. Made it to your first meeting. Congratulations.
No, it was fun.